Welcome to Navijer Recaps. Today I'm going to explain a horror sci-fi film called Life. Let's move on to the story of the film. The space station launches a capsule to collect soil samples from Mars. There are 6 astronauts in this capsule. The commander is Ektrina, the system engineer is Shaw, the flight engineer is Rory, the quarantine officer is Miranda, and the exobiologist in charge of the lab is named Hugh. In addition, there is a crew medical officer called David. It is revealed that the pilgrim in this capsule has been hit by meteorites while taking soil samples and has gone off the road. Because of this, Rory, the flight engineer of the astronaut team, decides to go out of this capsule and retrieve the pilgrim. Rory finishes it successfully and Hugh takes the soil sample from Mars to the lab in the capsule and checks it. Hugh found a cell in this soil sample, but upon further checking, he realized that the cell was inactive. This group increases the temperature in this experiment chamber to see if this organism will become active. But there is no response and Hugh decides to give the factors necessary for life, carbon dioxide, glucose, and a nutrient medium to see if the cell will become active. After a while, Hugh and the others realize that this cell is moving and this group is very happy, because these are the first group of astronauts to discover life outside the Earth. A college student named Calvin has been chosen from among 11,000 schools to give a name to this creature, and this student named this creature Calvin after her school. The next scene shows Miranda and David. Miranda checks David's health condition and she says that his decay is increasing more and more. The reason is that David is the longest serving astronaut in space. After that, it is shown that all these people go to sleep in the special cabins that have been made to sleep in this capsule. The next day, when Hugh checks Calvin, Hugh realizes that this organism is growing and is a single organism created from trillions of interconnected cells. Also, experiments reveal that each cell of this organism called Calvin can engage in different Lyme activities. Calvin's interactions with the chamber's atmosphere is a fascinating phenomenon that delights the group. Later we see that the group of astronauts are celebrating this happiness, but Shaw is not here. With this, Shaw comes here and introduces the new member of his family to them. The group notice that Shaw's wife has given birth to a child and congratulates Shaw is becoming a father. Shaw is also very happy. Hugh is then shown and he picks Calvin up on his finger through the protective gloves. Miranda sees this incident and she realizes that Hugh is spending too much time with Calvin. Time passes like this and one day there is a problem in the lab where Calvin is stored in this capsule. It is revealed that a clamp in this lab is loose. Rory goes and fixes this and he scolds Hugh for causing this problem because of Hugh's negligence. Due to this incident, the team of astronauts decided to keep the lab sealed when not in use. Later, when they are in the bedroom, Miranda notes in her diary that Calvin is weak because of the problem in the lab. That means Calvin is paralyzed and asleep. Hugh contemplates bringing Calvin back to normal and has an idea. The next day, he decides to electrocute Calvin. He picks up a wand that can deliver an electric shock and delivers a small electric shock. But there is no response from this creature. We are shown others are outside the lab watching this incident. As Hugh delivers the second shock, Calvin hangs onto Hugh's arm. Calvin also breaks the wand used to give an electric shock. He tries to pull the hand away but he realizes that it will not be easy. After a while, Calvin grips Hugh's hand and breaks almost all of his fingers. He pulls his hand away, but he faints from the pain of the broken fingers. The others outside the lab are waiting to see what Calvin will do next. Calvin tried to escape from this chamber, but failed due to the hand covering attached to this chamber. But this clever creature named Calvin uses a part of that broken wand to pierce the hand cover and come out of this experiment chamber. The people outside are waiting to see what Calvin will do next. At this time Calvin goes towards a rat that was used for an experiment in this lab and after a while starts consuming this rat. Lab outsiders understand that Calvin is a parasite and Rory quickly enters the lab and takes Hugh out of the lab. But Calvin hangs on Rory's leg, killing Rory's chance to get out of the lab. Because of this, David away close the lab while Rory is inside the lab. At this time, Rory asks Ektrina, the commander of this group, to give her permission to kill Calvin. Ektrina gives permission and according to Shaw's suggestion, Rory tries to kill Calvin using a flamethrower in the lab. Despite several attempts, Rory failed. Calvin suddenly jumps to Rory's side and enters O's mouth and starts consuming the insides. While these things are happening, because of that flamethrower, the clamps that bring air to this lab are activated. Calvin is then shown and we see that this creature fed by Rory is now several times bigger. Calvin is trying to escape from this lab through an activated clamp that brings air into the lab. Shaw and Ektrina try to prevent Calvin from escaping from the lab by closing this clamp one by one, but finally Calvin escapes from this lab through this one clamp. Because of this, Calvin can roam freely anywhere in this capsule. Although the astronauts tried to inform the space station about this incident, the capsule's communication system with the Earth broke down. Show discovers that the cause of the communication system crash is a broken transmitter in the capsule. This group understands that they have to go out of the capsule to make this transmitter, where they can be attacked by Calvin. But Ictrina is willing to take the risk and pulls on her spacesuit and exits the capsule to check the broken transmitter. She realizes that the transmitter system has run out of coolant and that the communication system has broken down. Hugh says from inside this capsule that Calvin must have consumed the coolant because he is an organic being. Just like Hugh said, Calvin comes out from inside the transmitter coolant and grabs Ictrina's spacesuit. Calvin is now trying to consume the coolant in Ictrina's spacesuit. She tries to get inside the capsule and exit the airlock. Calvin damaged her spacesuit and spacesuit coolant begins to enter her helmet. Because of this, she cannot see clearly and she decides to untie the cable and jump to where the airlock is. She goes to where the airlock is and David helps from inside to open the airlock. But from the outside, Ictrina can't open this and she floats away in the away of space. Because of Calvin, now 2 of the team of astronauts have died and this sad group is wondering what to do to destroy Calvin. At this time, Show realizes that Calvin is trying to enter the capsule through the thrusters in the capsule. Show activates these thrusters one by one and prevents Calvin from entering the capsule and try to destroy this creature. These astronauts understand that due to these activated thrusts, the capsule will quickly go to Earth orbit. Also, because the capsule's fuel level is very low, Show decides to use the remaining fuel to stop the capsule from going into orbit and stabilize it again. Show no longer operates the thrusters because there is no fuel. Because of this, Calvin easily enters the capsule. Now, thinking about what these people are doing, Hugh comes up with an idea. He says that Calvin is an organic being and hibernates due to loss of atmosphere. By that, he means that we should completely reduce the air level of all the other compartments of this capsule, except the station where this compartment is. Others agree. The station they are in is sealed so that Calvin cannot come and the percentage of air in the other compartments is completely reduced. Now this group is waiting for Calvin to fall hibernates without air. Meanwhile, these people are taking the blame for this incident one by one. After a while, Hugh becomes weak and Miranda, David, and Show join forces to treat him. Meanwhile, Miranda notices something on one of Hugh's legs. When they check this, they see Calvin consuming Hugh's leg and they get scared. Miranda quickly puts the CPR machine on Hugh's leg where Calvin is hanging on. Because of this, Calvin pursues them with the intention of preying on them. David and Miranda go to the compartment and close the door. Show can't get to them and he rushes to a cabin the group is using to sleep and closes the door. Calvin follows him there and breaks the glass of this room and tries to make Show the victim. But Calvin is unable to break the strong glass of this chamber and leaves here. Then Miranda and David show up and while they check on Hugh's condition he dies. This time David and Miranda see another capsule coming and David thinks that a rescue capsule is coming due to the signal they sent. But this capsule will push the capsule containing these people further into space. This upsets David, and Miranda explains to him that according to the space station's protocol, if a capsule fails, they will be expelled. After that Show shows up and starts to find David and Miranda thinking a rescue capsule has arrived. David and Miranda in the control room see this through the indicator and think that Show is in danger from Calvin and decide to go find him. The two go to Show and see Calvin attacking him. These two try to save Show, but unfortunately, he falls prey to Calvin. Even though Calvin tried to victimize David and Miranda, they went to a compartment and closed the door. At this time, these two see that the capsule has been hit and the capsule they are in is almost completely damaged. But David realized that the computer system is still working, and he discovers that the capsule is pulling in the direction to Earth. These two understand that if the capsule with Calvin goes to Earth, it can cause great destruction. And due to damage to the capsule, the temperature decreases and the atmosphere begins to mix everywhere. Due to the decrease in temperature and lack of oxygen, these two begin to feel very cold, making it difficult to breathe. Meanwhile, the two of them think of a way to prevent this capsule from going to Earth with Calvin. David has an idea and he says that this capsule has two emergency boats, A and B. He lures Calvin into boat A and says he will drive the boat into space, telling Miranda to use the time to go to Earth in boat B. Miranda doesn't like this at first, but later likes it. After that, the plan is implemented and David leaves to find Calvin. He finds Calvin in the sleeping compartment and brings him back using oxygen torches. Meanwhile, Miranda leaves for B boat. Then David shows up and he enters boat A and Calvin, who came after the oxygen torch, also enters it. David gives Calvin the oxygen torch he has in his hand so he can take control of the boat. After that he activates the boat and starts driving towards space, while Miranda travels to Earth in the other boat. After a short distance, Calvin starts attacking David as the oxygen torch that he gave him runs out. This prevents him from controlling the boat and the plane changes direction and starts heading towards Earth. After that, Miranda is shown, and due to a fault in her boat, the boat starts moving towards the space. The boat with David and Calvin enters the Earth and lands in a certain sea, and this incident is seen by a group of fishermen who are catching fish. This group approaches the boat and tries to open its door. David shouts from inside and tells him not to open the door, but the fisherman outside cannot hear it, so he opens the door. The story of the film ends with such a terrible incident.